Some video game franchises were just born to succeed. There are some IPs in which new installments instantly become beloved classics, simply because people enjoy that franchise and what has been established in that universe. And other games take years to gain a fan following and become truly appreciated.
Today on Game & Browse, we aren't really going to be talking about any of those games.
Instead, we're going to be talking about 6 games that we liked personally, but that you might not have. Now, when we say that we're talking about games you might not have liked, that's because they were either not very well received at launch, or the title is just a little more obscure, and we don't hear them talked about as often. Because we had so much fun writing and talking about 6 games that scared us as kids, we decided today to bring you another personal list video. Without further ado, put on your nostalgia goggles, because here are 6 games that we liked that you might not have.
Number 6.
My pick for number 6 comes from a very well-received Sega arcade franchise. That is The House of the Dead, which is a personal favorite of mine. Complete with excellent rail-shooting gameplay, a fun apocalyptic aesthetic, and laughably terrible, so bad it's good voice acting.
We're meeting G over there. What? How could anyone do this? I don't want to die! My God.
House of the Dead 2 specifically is one of the real shining gems in the franchise. While best known for its main series games, many of which can be found in arcades around the world, the series is no stranger to a few spin-off titles too. Everybody knows Typing of the Dead, which is a modified port of House of the Dead 2, in which guns are replaced with keyboards and the player has to type their way to victory. But did you know that there was a pinball game spin-off released for the Game Boy Advance in 2002? Yep, it's true, and it's aptly named The Pinball of the Dead.
Duh.
Published by THQ, who assisted with the development of many Sega handheld games at the time, The Pinball of the Dead is, as you would expect, a handheld pinball game that uses elements and assets from the first 2 House of the Dead games. This culmination of gory goodness provides the player with 3 different pinball tables to play on: Wandering, Movement, and Cemetery. As with all pinball games, there are many different themed Easter eggs and unlockables hidden within the game's tables. One of the coolest features in The Pinball of the Dead is the fact that you can actually fight all of the boss battles from the House of the Dead 2 by satisfying a set of conditions on each table. This might include making your way to the top of the table and hitting all of the Kagyo, or growing a specimen in a culture tank by sending a ball flying in a particular direction. Either way, complete the required components, and you'll be able to unlock the boss battles where you'll find handheld recreations of the tarot-themed bosses from House of the Dead 2. As expected, you defeat each boss by hitting it enough times with your pinball. As if the boss battles from the House of the Dead 2 weren't enough to please my fangirl's soul, the game also features full-motion video clips, voice samples, and 32-bit renditions of the OSTs from the franchise's previous installments. If you're a fan of Game Boy Advance pinball games, or of the House of the Dead, I would definitely check this one out. The Pinball of the Dead made today's list not because it was poorly received by critics. As a matter of fact, the consensus was that the game was actually pretty good. But it made the list because I didn't even know this game existed until a few years ago. And if I had to wager a guess, I would bet that I'm not the only one that didn't know that if you hit a zombie with a big silver pinball, it'll explode into a sea of spray paint. And that's why The Pinball of the Dead comes in at number 6 on today's list. Number 5.
I've always had a taste for speed and power, as Jeremy Clarkson would say. So my pick for number 5 will be a racing game with some absolutely wonderful finesse: Auto Modelista on the Nintendo GameCube. I grew up with the Gran Turismo franchise on my PlayStation, and that's where my love of racing titles started. However, whenever it came to 6th generation consoles, I never had a PS2, so that cut me off from the franchise. Thankfully, this game popped up out of nowhere for me to save the day.
Good news! What? It's a Capcom.
Auto Modelista was a one-off game developed by Capcom, so that might explain why you have never heard of it, since it has no major legacy as a franchise. You definitely shouldn't miss out on this one if you can find a copy. Automodelista falls more into the casual side of racing games rather than a hardcore racing sim when it comes to controls. But it gives a delightful spoonful of the racing world accoutrements to make it feel more connected and intimate than just any generic racing game. Automodelista starts out in your very own garage, where you can decorate and store your car. This almost RPG element is fascinating to see in a racing game. While the selection of cars isn't super vast, you do have a solid arrangement of brands and models to choose from, and then you can customize the design and head into some of the more specific fine-tuning features for your car, which is where the game's features definitely come to life. There are many different options and permutations that you can take and end up doing with your car. Some of those design options even include making your own custom decals to truly make the car your own. Like I mentioned earlier, the car's physics aren't as true as those you would find in a simulation racer. The game instead has a stronger focus on drifting with controlled slides and smooth handling. This honestly feels like someone was making an initial D game and instead expanded upon the concept to be a more robust racing title. I mean, you can even use the famous Toyota Trueno, and all you need to do is crank up some Eurobeat and start playing on one of the game's many hill run courses. Speaking of another almost anime-related element that the game has, is its graphics. This is honestly one of the best visually aged racers I've played. Rather than opting for the realistic look of other contemporary racers, Capcom went for the cel-shaded look, which, as we've started to see in recent history, is gaining a huge appreciation for how well it holds up as a visual style. This is a huge part of why I think you should check this game out. It looks absolutely timeless. You wouldn't even think that this game is nearing 20 years old. Although Capcom has almost entirely abandoned racing games in recent times, this one shouldn't ever be lost. Automodelista deserves a revival and therefore earns a spot on my list. Number 4.
Okay, now it's my turn to talk about racing. My pick for game number 4 is often cited as being the number 1 happiest place on Earth. Welcome to Walt Disney World Quest Magical Racing Tour for the PlayStation and the Sega Dreamcast, released in the year 2000. The premise for Magical Racing Tour is that the big fireworks machine Walt Disney World uses for their nightly fireworks show is broken when Chip and Dale, the rescue rangers, accidentally drop acorns into the machine. Jiminy Cricket informs Chip and Dale that it's now their job to collect replacement machine parts from around Disney's 4 parks in order to fix the machine before the fireworks show later that night. In Magical Racing Tour, you're actually kart racing your way around the rides that are within Disney World's 4 real-life theme parks. Ever wanted to race through the Rock and Roller Coaster? Perfect, head to Hollywood Studios. Want to get in touch with your inner pirate? Go visit the Pirates of the Caribbean ride over in Magic Kingdom, and so on and so forth. Many of Disney's most famous real-world thrill rides have been recreated and reimagined as full-fledged kart racing tracks. As a huge fan of theme parks, I think that this is a fantastic premise for a kart racing game. The game does have to take some creative liberties in order to flesh out some of the tracks, but this is to be expected, as most of Disney's in-park rides only last a few minutes. Thankfully, the creative liberties taken within the tracks all feel authentic, and they fit in with each ride. They don't feel forced or like they were just included for the sake of having more in-game content. Shameless plug, if you're interested in the theme parks as video games genre, be sure to check out one of our earlier Game & Browse videos on Universal Studios' Theme Parks Adventure for the Nintendo GameCube. In addition to the fact that this is a super solid kart racing title centered around Walt Disney World's campus, the game also has a few more praiseworthy features. For one, Magical Racing Tour has a completely unique set of characters that were all designed specifically for this game. Aside from Chip, Dale, and Jiminy Cricket, each of the other playable characters is modeled after one of the ride-inspired tracks, which is yet another cool homage to Disney World's legacy. Finally, remember how we said that the racing tracks all felt authentic to their real-world ride counterparts? Well, part of this is due to the fact that the majority of the tracks feature the official music from those rides. There are a few exceptions to this statement, however, with the most notable omission being the fact that the Rock and Roller Coaster sadly does not feature its iconic Aerosmith soundtrack. As far as gameplay goes, many comparisons have been made between Magical Racing Tour and the gold standard for kart racing games, Mario Kart. Both games feature the randomized power-up roulette that provides the chaotic and unpredictable nature of each lap. Though similarities can be drawn between the two games, the reason why Magical Racing Tour ended up on this list is because it simply wasn't well received. As far as gameplay goes, it didn't offer enough new content to set it apart from Mario Kart, which was well established by the year 2000, with smash hit titles existing on both the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64. Magical Racing Tour was released to universally lukewarm reception, and therefore the game has kind of fallen into obscurity, which is a shame because of the awesome detail that was put into designing it. I guess when it comes down to it, there can be only one King of Kart. And that's why my pick for game number 4 goes to Walt Disney World Quest Magical Racing Tour. Number 3.
This next one is a true refreshment for those with a taste for marketing. It also doesn't hurt that it's a great retro runner game as well. Let's talk about Pepsi Man.
If you haven't heard of this one, it's a fairly rare Japanese exclusive game for the PlayStation 1, which isn't surprising considering the Pepsi Man mascot is also a Japanese exclusive as well. Either way, this is no problem for me since my PlayStation is modded, which we used to play another rare Japanese game previously on the channel. Perhaps you're more familiar with that one, wink wink. Now, how could we describe Pepsi Man? Think Temple Run, but add a ton of soda and a strange bodysuit wearing mascot. Then you've kinda got the right idea. As far as mechanics go, Pepsi Man is a hand-eye coordination and pattern-driven game. As a consequence of these mechanics, it's a short and rather unforgiving game. But that's the best kind of setup for a runner title like this. You will get frustrated and need to take breaks, but since the game doesn't push on too long, the returns are rewarding. All you need to do is run forward, dodge obstacles, collect Pepsi cans, and make it to the end of the course before time runs out. It's a simple concept, but one that holds up very well. The game can be a little glitchy and sensitive at times with questionable hitboxes and other gimmicky mechanics, but I digress. If you stick with it, you can figure out the quirks, like I did, and be able to conquer it. Eventually, after you power through it and beat the game, you're gifted the retro Pepsi Man costume. Not earth-shattering, but a fun prize regardless, especially to a retro junkie like myself. One of the strangest parts about this already strange game are the FMV sequences that happen in between major stages of the game. All of them are centered around this guy, Mike Butters, but the clips don't really make any sense, even whenever they're put together. It's like a series of mini commercials focused around irreverent soda advertising. But nonetheless, that's the game in a nutshell. It's super tongue-in-cheek and very bizarre. However, that's what makes it so interesting to me. Maybe it's not as interesting as a concept to you, but if you can somehow find it for less than its current market price, it is worth playing since it is super short and can be completed in less than 2 hours. This also brings me to my final point. Just like the Domino's Noid, Pepsi Man needs to make a comeback. There's a cult following for this game, and even some fan-made demo remakes that are floating out there. It's not surprising at all, especially considering the world's current obsession with all things nostalgic and retro. I just hope PepsiCo is listening too. Either way, this is just a game that I feel you should take a look at, and as Mike said, have a Pepsi. Number 2.
Oh man, this last one. My top pick for the video. I can hear the criticism now. Okay, let's start with a little background information so you can see where I'm coming from with this one. Growing up, I didn't have any at-home Nintendo consoles. That meant that essential franchises like Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros., and Mario Party were completely foreign to me. Instead, I had games on the Dreamcast like Magical Racing Tour, Soul Calibur, and Sonic Shuffle. Yep, my favorite party game of all time, the first of its genre that I ever played, and the top billing for me on today's list goes to Sonic Shuffle on the Sega Dreamcast. Everywhere I go, I hear this game referred to as being just another Mario Party clone, and a weak one at that. When Sonic Shuffle came out in 2000, the Mario Party franchise had already been well established, with Mario Party 1 and 2 on the N64, so it led a lot of gamers to draw comparisons between the two franchises. I don't think this is quite fair, though. While the fundamentals are very similar, there are enough differences between the games to set them apart from one another. As a matter of fact, and please don't unsubscribe when you hear this, I would go as far to say that Sonic Shuffle is on par with the Mario Party games of the era. Hey, knock it off! Remember the theme of the video? Games we liked that you might not have. It falls in with today's topic. File your complaint in the comments section so we can discuss this matter further. Anyways, here's why I really enjoy Sonic Shuffle. Number 1 is replayability. Party games, when they're chock full of in-game activities, have a super high replayability factor because of the random elements that are different from play session to play session. Like Mario Party, Sonic Shuffle has a wide variety of minigames that are basic, but super fun to play, especially when you play them couch co-op with a friend or a sibling. Number 2 is the aesthetics. Now, this is a no-brainer. I adore anything and everything Dreamcast-era Sonic. The design aesthetic chosen specifically for the character models in Sonic Shuffle was that of a cel-shaded design, just like Jet Grind Radio, both of which were developed by one of Sega's in-house teams, Smilebit. I feel that the cel-shaded style, while foreign to Sonic at the time, was an interesting choice that provided some variety to the 3D world of Sonic titles. Like Aaron said earlier about Auto Modellista, cel shading is an artistic style that has held up well into 2021. Number 3 is the plot. I think that the plot of Sonic Shuffle is actually pretty compelling for a party game. The objective of Sonic Shuffle is to collect precious stones, which are kind of like the stars of the Mario Party universe. But these precious stones have to be collected so they don't fall into the hands of Void, the game's antagonist, who wants to suck the power out of the precious stones in order to turn Imaginary Land, the game's setting, into a barren wasteland and to set it on a path to destruction. Lumina Flowlight, who is Void's protagonist counterpart, calls out to Sonic and his friends in a dream, asking for their help in retrieving the precious stones so Imaginary World can be saved. Fun fact about the plot, Sonic actually first meets Lumina in Sonic the Comic issue 92, which serves as the game's official Dreamcast pre-adaptation. The events leading up to Sonic Shuffle, the game, are actually featured in this issue of Sonic the Comic. And number 4 is of course nostalgia. I can't help it. I loved this game when I was a kid. And while it does have some serious flaws, like the awful load times between segments, I mean, seriously, look at this. Regardless, I can't help but still have fun with the game to this day, even if Aaron doesn't share my same sentiment after our most recent play session. Sonic Shuffle will always be my first experience with a party game, and it'll always hold a precious place in my heart. So that's why spot number 2 on this list goes to Sonic Shuffle. Number 1.
Have you ever wanted a video game about watching TV? How about one combined with Hey You Pikachu? Yeah, as it turns out, not many people did, actually. Pokémon Channel is a pretty universally disliked spin-off game within an already vocal community. And you know what they say, no one hates Pokémon more than Pokémon fans. But for me, Pokémon Channel represents a chill little area of fuzzy nostalgia in my brain. The game is a little slice of virtual couch potato life in the Pokémon world, which honestly is one of the best aspects of Pokémon Channel for me. You see, unlike Helen, I'm not a Pokémon mega fan. I haven't beat a main series game since the 3rd generation. But on the flip side, I still love the beautifully crafted universe that the franchise has created. I actually really enjoy Pokémon spin-offs because they engage with a different aspect that exists beyond battles, contests, and conquest. I long for the day where I can play a Pokémon game as a professor, exploring and help define a Pokémon region in a new open-world RPG game. Oh wait, they might actually be making a game like this with Pokémon Legends Arceus. I guess we'll just have to wait and see if this is the dream Pokémon game that I've been waiting for. But anyway, back to Pokémon Channel. I'll be realistic when I say that there is not a super large amount of depth in the game, and the game moves at a snail's pace. It's very Animal Crossing in the way that it handles the gameplay. Most of the days are just checking out the channels, which range from news, to game shows, to shopping networks, and other odds and ends as far as content goes, all of which are very simple, but I still find addicting. Countless hours were lost flipping around to watch Shop and Squirtle to collect all the TVs and other decor for my in-game room. The main narrative is driven around the game's exclusive in-universe anime, Pichu Bros in Party Panic, a cute series that follows some very familiar Ellie rodents. You might recall these two from the animated short Pikachu and Pichu, which was featured alongside the third Pokemon movie, Spell of Unknown, Entei. The anime is cute and handled in micro-episodes, which when combined are about the length of an actual episode of Pokemon. Once you collect all the episodes and complete the series, the game is technically complete. Upon completion, you get to watch a full version of the series at night with Jirachi. Outside of the TV, the game is very reminiscent of Hey You Pikachu, giving you a small world that you can explore with places to visit like the Viridian Forest, Mount Snowfall, and some areas that are also available in Hey You Pikachu, including Springleaf Fields and Cobalt Coast, which once again draws some more parallels between the two titles. One of the coolest features in Pokemon Channel is the fact that you can buy a Pokemon Mini console in-game. Prior to this, I had no knowledge of the Pokemon Mini as a device. But ever since it was featured in Pokemon Channel, I've had fun with the charming little games that are featured on the tiny device. And who knows, maybe it can be its own Game & Browse Toy Box episode someday, if we can ever get our hands on one. One fun, random fact that I love about the game are the collectible models of in-game TVs. They can come in a wide variety of designs and styles, and sometimes are accompanied with a unique display effect that is exclusive to that TV. These visual effects can range from night vision to rainbow vision, sepia, screen warp, and so on, with each effect obviously paying homage to the Pokemon that the television set was based on. And of course, the award for Best TV goes to one of my favorite Pocket Monsters, Ditto with its Stage TV. To summarize, Pokemon Channel isn't exactly a big swinger of a game, but if you truly love the idea of the Pokemon universe and you don't mind some slow gameplay, this one is definitely worthy of your time. Growing up, I didn't always have cable access in my room, but I did have Pokemon Channel, so the game, to me, felt like a pseudo-TV network, and it's one of the reasons the game has stuck with me, even if it fell flat with the greater Pokemon fanbase. So that is why the top billing on today's list goes to Pokemon Channel.
Thanks again for being here and listening to us recount some of the games that we really liked that you might not have. Let us know in the comments section below some games that you might have in that guilty pleasure category. You might not be alone in what you like.
As always, thanks for watching, and please consider giving us a like or a sub if you enjoyed the content. See you next time here on Game & Browse. Bye for now.